I think by far we are in the trenches with the victims day in and day out, 24/7. We are with victims 24/7, and not just on the emergency, but over the long haul, over years, because it really takes a long time to heal and get on the feet and, healings like this. So having someone to call during those dips and get reconnected to maybe the services they need at that midpoint, things are really important.
Welcome to Micah, the next chapter. I'm your host, Kristin Guglielmo. Today, I am honored to be joined by Susan Peters, founder and CEO of Unbound Now, a global anti-human trafficking organization committed to restoring lives, supporting survivors, and preventing exploitation. During our time together, we'll explore the origins of Unbound Now, the victories, and the lessons along the way, what's working now, and where the fight goes next. Susan, welcome. I so appreciate you joining me today. And before we get into Unbound Now, tell us a little bit about yourself. And again, thank you for joining.
Oh, thanks for having me. As you said, I'm the founder and CEO of Unbound Now. I've been married to Marty. We always forget how many years. Let's see, 36 years, I think, fixing to be 37. And we have 4 adult daughters and son-in-laws and a 4th grandbaby on the way. So I lived in Waco, Texas, where we founded Unbound Now, and moved to Fort Worth, where we've moved our headquarters there now, and it's our largest office, and it's where my grandbabies are.
Oh, which is very nice. Yeah, you definitely want to be near your grandbabies. I'm hoping I get some. My oldest is only 23, so we have time, but
Lots of fun.
yep. Well, that's great. Susan, what inspired you to found Unbound Now in 2012? And what was your vision behind it at the onset?
Yeah. So I was a pastor on staff at my church for many years. And part of my job was traveling internationally to go visit our missionaries and just encourage them, that kind of thing. And so, years leading up to 2012, I went to Uganda and I saw child soldiers that were kidnapped by the LRA, Lord's Resistance Army. That's child soldiering, a form of human trafficking. There was India, brothels, Thailand, Cambodia. I mean, Dominican Republic, Haiti, everywhere I went was seeing it. And so I just kept journaling and praying, saying, what can be done about all of this human trafficking? It was just blowing up in our world. And at that time, almost 15 years ago, there wasn't a lot of work being done. And finally, in 2012, I just felt like I would be in tremendous disobedience if I didn't try to do something. And so I thought someone can do my job, but there's not enough people trying to combat human trafficking. And so I wanted to start an organization to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it's been, what, 12 years? No,
Almost
13 years,
14. Yeah.
almost 14 years. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, can you walk us through those early days? What were your biggest challenges and, that you faced launching the mission?
Oh my goodness. Well, starting anything's difficult, right? I mean, I
Absolutely.
started with volunteers and we just met and prayed and said, how do we do this? Read books that we could get our hands on to learn as much as we could. And then I thought we would do more international human trafficking because that was my experience. And then I met my first 12-year-old trafficking victim.
Mm.
And she and these young girls were kept in an apartment complex, sold day and night, hadn't been in school in almost a year. And when she told me the horrific story that they had been through, I'll never forget. She looked at me and said, we didn't think anyone cared this was happening to us. And I remember thinking, oh my God, yes, we
And
cared.
this
We
was here
just
in the
didn't
United
know.
States.
Here in the US, in one of our cities.
Okay.
And so
Well,
I
and I
thought,
know it's happening in our cities, but
that's right. And so I thought, we've got to pivot. We've got to start right here at home and in our own communities. Our young people are being sold. And so that's what we did is we started addressing how are we going to do this right here? And we started researching just online. At that time, it was Backpage, which is like a Craigslist, an online, you buy a used car, furniture. You could literally go to an escort area and just see pictures and pictures and pictures of young people being
is
advertised for
that like
sex.
the dark web? Is that like
It's
a
not,
like
even the dark web. It was right there in front of you.
oh, so it's just a website that they can
Yeah,
go to and
that's right.
find whatever people
That's
want
right. That's right.
that is
That's right. And so we would print those off and I'd put them in a file and I took them to our local law enforcement and they were saying, that is not happening here. That happens overseas. We don't have that here. And I'm like, no, this is, call this number. They're here. And same thing with the district attorney's office. Of course, this was 15 years ago and people just didn't know. And so you asked, what are the challenges at the beginning? The beginning was that people really didn't know that it was happening in our communities that long ago. And so we had to really focus on education. And we, got really excellent trainings for frontline workers like law enforcement, prosecutors, social workers, medical community, because we knew they're in our community, we're missing them.
Mhm.
And so then we did prevention education because we thought if we can get in front of vulnerable kids, we can find these. So we went to the juvenile detention center and places like that so that we could do the education because they're not going to present and say, oh, I'm a trafficking victim. They don't know that. They've been brainwashed. They just think that they've chosen this. They have a bad boyfriend. Their uncle makes them do it, that kind of thing. And so we had to educate them to give them language. And so that's where we had to start, was really educating people on what was happening so then we could collaborate and work on cases.
Yeah, so they're aware of it happening before
Yeah,
it's happening to them, so they say,
that's
"Oh,
right.
Jesus, this was
That's right.
exactly what they shared with me."
Right.
Now, how early do we wanna share this? And it sounds like we wanna share it pretty early because
Yeah.
just like talking to a stranger, like stranger danger,
Yeah.
it kinda
Right.
has to be
Right.
brought in with that, I
Well,
think.
it's just so important that we do young because young children are having phones and
Yeah,
perpetrators are getting to them on their phone. I like to tell a parent, if a 40-year-old man knocked on your door and said, I would like to talk to your 11-year-old in her bedroom, you'd be like, where's my bat? I will get after him, right?
right,
But
right.
what's happening is that's what they're doing on the social media sites, on the gaming sites, on
Mhm.
YouTube. And the parents are totally unaware of that. And so we have to educate parents and we have to educate children on social media safety, on
Mhm.
sexting and sextortion, on pornography and its addictive components and how that can feed into human trafficking. And
Yeah.
so the tactics of a trafficker. I mean, we've had great families with wonderful kids fall into that sextortion because they are really good at manipulating young people. And so we try to educate children in middle schools and definitely in high schools and even colleges. They really have to be aware because they can get pulled into situations before they realize it.
Yep, and then they don't know how to get out, and they might be,
Right.
what, drugged? I mean, who
Right.
knows? Who
Yeah.
knows what
We've
situa
educated over 100,000 students. And
Oh,
then
wow.
over that on professionals, and we give continuing education. They can go to our website and get those trainings, but we do them in person or online, and they're really, really important. And they can get certified if they need it for medical community or dental, or a lot of professions have to have human trafficking training, and they could do ours free, and we'll give them a certificate.
Now, where are like, how far over, the United States do you work? I mean, you're
Well,
down
anybody can access us across the nation on those trainings. We work in 46 counties across Texas and 15 parishes across Louisiana.
so, would you I'm assuming you'd love to get this out to all the states to make sure that they're all seeing your website,
That's
so that
right.
would be
That's right.
definitely something.
Yeah, we can educate anywhere across the nation, of course, and then we'd like to be in more places just as the funding comes in because every time we put an office in, we are serving over 100 young people.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, how did your faith and your personal conviction shape the mission and the values of Unbound Now?
Yeah, well, I'm a follower of Jesus, and so that was the whole start was my heart was breaking for this and kept journaling and praying and saying what can be done and what is my responsibility in this. And Micah 6:8 has always been really important and audience isn't familiar with it, it's shaped our mission. It says to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. And I love that part because it says that we are to do justice.
Mhm.
We're to enforce justice. And so these words have guided us to be compassionate and led by compassion and to do excellence. Our trainings, we make sure that they're excellent, that our staff is excellently trained, and that this is really been important that we, as the people of God, are answering this call. Of course, we work with anyone from any religion, any background, and all of that. But as the founder and as our staff, we really pray about what we do. We want the Lord to meet us, to show us how to do this well, and it's been a
think
blessing.
I think you need that with the work that you're in too, to have that faith because you're seeing some really awful things.
Yeah. Yes, and I mean, really, only the Lord can heal the deepest wounds, and also just for our staff, I'm like, we can't heal a lifetime of trauma, but we can step in and be the hands and feet of Jesus and walk in compassion. And the power of presence is very, very powerful. And the power of prayer, not just praying out loud with them, but when we go home and drive away, we pray that the Lord will meet them and heal them. And I think that's really, really important. And that's who we are as a culture of Unbound Now.
I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
So when you look back, what was the moment you felt, this is real
Yeah.
and this is going to work?
Yeah. Very early on, after we've been just operating for about a year, we were doing the trainings in the juvenile detention center and group homes, really trying to get before kids that we knew had probably been trafficked but didn't have language for it. We had identified a 15-year-old, and she'd finally made an outcry in the juvenile detention center that she was a trafficking victim. And then she ran away. And we were all looking for her. By then, we had developed good relationships with our law enforcement partners in the community. And finally, she was found, but unfortunately, she was horrifically sold again. And we all worked to support her. We worked with the district attorney's office, worked with her for safe housing, counseling, and then prepped her for the trial, which she testified. And her trafficker got 12 consecutive life sentences.
Oh, amazing.
And when that happened, and I looked around and I saw how hard the detectives worked, how hard the juvenile detention staff worked, how collaboratively that our advocates had worked with all of those agencies and the district attorney's office, and we transported her and secured safe housing, and we all worked together to support her and got that kind of justice. I was like, this works.
Yeah. That's an incredible story. And you think about it, I mean, obviously you saved this one girl, but you and her by testifying and stand, and doing that, she saved so many other children out there
Right.
too. So I
Right.
mean, you started it and she finished it,
Yeah.
and she went through something that was just,
Yeah.
horrible, horrible, horrific experience.
Right.
And, just she should be so proud of herself for being able to
Yeah.
do that.
Very courageous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So over the years, what have some of Mother Unbound Now most significant successes, whether it's rescues, support outcomes, preventive impact?
There's so many because we've served, I don't know, I haven't seen the numbers. It was 6,000 before this year. And right now, just in 2025, we've
6,000.
served almost 1,950 clients and survivors. So
Say
almost
that again.
2,000 just in 2025.
Oh my God, almost 2,000
Almost 2,000
survivors.
in 2025.
And that's all over the country, or is that
That's
mostly?
across Texas and Louisiana. Yeah.
Oh,
So
so
I'm very proud of what our teams do.
hey,
We call our full-time staff that work with we call them clients because they don't want to be identified as survivors or
yeah,
victims
you
all the
don't need to
time.
put labels.
Yes, but they answer the phone 24/7 in all the communities that we serve because if a law enforcement pulls over a car at 2 in the morning and it doesn't look right to them, that young person is trained not to tell the police anything because they're terrified of them and their pimps have told them they're going to arrest you, you're the bad guy and all this. So they can call us and we can deploy and say we're not law enforcement, we're not child protective services, we are here just for you. And that partnership with our law enforcement partners really, really works. And so we answer that phone call 24/7 to do that emergency response. We can transport to the hospital. We can translate because, if you've been in trauma, most of us have unfortunately gone through some things. You can't think clearly. So
No.
when you have an advocate there that's highly trained, most of them come from social work backgrounds or the like, then we do 60 hours of our own training that's very trauma informed. They can, in a very calming way, de-escalate their emotions, can explain what's happening in the medical opportunities or options that they have, or the social services, or the law enforcement legal systems. We're translating that for them. But then we do ongoing long-term case management. And so we're not dropping them after that. We're doing safety planning. We're visiting with them during the week. We're making sure they're getting connected to the resources they need to get their life back, like counseling and safe
Mhm.
housing and other things like that, jobs. And so it's really, really works because there's research that a healthy adult in a traumatized person's life is a game changer. And
Mhm.
that's how we've made the model of what we do at Unbound Now.
I love that, and yeah, it's so the idea that you're staying with them, and then
Right.
they need that, and all those services that are out there, they're hard to they're hard to manage or hard to
Right.
find, figure out what you can get,
That's right.
what's available for you. Um, you
That's
know,
right.
I-
Getting
so
their ID. We had one young lady who our advocate took her to get her ID, and then they went to a drive-through to get food, and they were in the car, and she noticed she was just looking at that ID. So the advocate said, "What are you thinking?" And she said, "This is the first time I've felt human in a really, really long time."
ugh,
And so those things are important, and it's overwhelming if you're trying to do it by yourself. You know, where do I find my documents? Because I don't have any documents to get a document. How do I apply for housing when I don't have a job? Those are systems that it can be very daunting. And so to have an advocate that walks with them and helps them navigate those systems to get that support is really important.
Now, with all the refugee situation, how you're talking about no papers and getting help. How do we help those people? Because they're not going to come for help because they're afraid they're going to be
Yeah.
sent, back to where they were, or the situation that they were in that maybe
Right.
could even have been worse or more
Right.
dangerous. I mean, we don't
Right.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a lot of delicacy and to find out what their story is. We do quite a few operations with our law enforcement to elicit massage parlors, and most of those women are from China, and it's very complex. Their situation, what they go back to, they
Mm,
may owe money, and so it
yeah.
really takes a lot of understanding and patience to work every case diplomatically as you can to help them find those resources that'll work for them and not jeopardize their safety. That's why the training that we do is so important. A lot of people get real excited and they want to help, but you can actually do more harm than good because there's a lot of complexity. If they, back at home, someone could attack their family if they don't
Mm,
keep sending the money back, or you approach, a girl on the street and her pimp's watching and is going to beat her after you walk by, but you think you had a great conversation or handed her a hotline
right.
number. It just takes a lot of understanding. So I think that's important.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. So you really have to be trained in what you're doing to be able to, or definitely get that training to know when you don't want to approach someone, or to get them in more harm's way. Yeah.
Right.
So looking back, where their programming or strategic decisions that didn't work as expected. So what was
Yeah.
something that you thought was going to work didn't work?
Well, I'll tell you, since the very beginning of Unbound Now, I I wanted a safe house for young girls. It's something that we hear constantly that is under-resourced and needed. And I thought we would have had one the first year, the second year. Year 10, a donor of ours offered us a home in walking distance to one of our offices, which was absolutely amazing. And
Wow.
so we took that house. We got a lot of volunteers that were plumbers and electricians and granite people, and just beautiful, beautiful home. And we opened it and we served girls there, I think for almost 4 years. And it was wonderful. It only housed 6 girls, which I wanted to do small. I wanted them to feel like real kids. I
Hmm.
wanted them to go to a real school, not homeschooled. I want them to learn that there are teachers they can trust. They can learn how to get along with students. They, just build out that infrastructure that really works in real life. An
Hmm.
amazing partnership with a facility here that had a charter school. The girls eventually went through different phases and were able to play sports. One of them went to prom, different things like that. But we've made the very difficult decision this year to shut that program down.
Mm,
And because it's very, very expensive to run those programs, but it's very expensive to do what we do. And really, I think what would be the most successful is an organization that is only focused on housing. But we do advocacy across 2 different states. We do tons of prevention education, and we had this home. And although it was successful, it was a little bit outside of our wheelhouse, and it was also a great expense. And so we've had to make the decision to not do that going into this next year. So, decisions are difficult when there's so much need, but to
yeah.
say, hey, as an organization, let's do what we're really, really good at and leave that up to someone else. But that was a hard decision.
Yeah, that is a hard decision because you wanna make that as maybe part of it, but you're helping six people at a time where and I don't know how much the money is and the expenses for that home, but what could that money do
Right, right,
for the community of Texas, in
right.
your area where there it could maybe help 50 or
Yeah,
100
like
or
each of our
200
advocates.
children.
Yeah, that's right. So each of our advocates have around 15 on their caseload. But I think the homes are really important and they do really good work.
Yeah.
But what we really love and see thriving and people long term getting their life back and getting as many people as we can has been through our advocacy program.
That's amazing, so, that really great.
Still painful lessons.
Yes. Yeah, well, I know. I own my own, insurance agency for years, and yeah, you make lots of mistakes and but mine is not life altering. So my
Yeah,
insurance business was not life altering. What you're doing is life altering. So
yeah.
so how has Unbound Now's approach to survivor support and prevention evolved over time?
Wow. Every year we learn something and we have to change. So at the beginning, we had pictures of a girl with duct tape across her mouth and chains with her arms. And that's how we, you know, had our brochures and things. And what we heard from the survivors was I was never chained up in a basement. I didn't have duct tape across my mouth. My trafficker just beat up my partner, and I just knew that I better be quiet and not leave and not run. You know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
so those pictures made them feel like they weren't really a victim, and so we had to
Oh.
change. And then we heard from the male victims. We never see pictures of male victims. So we felt like we could never tell anyone because it only happened to girls. So we had to change in that way. There's just over time, we're learning all the time from survivors what
Mhm.
hits the mark and what doesn't, what's trauma informed and what's re-triggering and re-damaging.
Right.
And so we are learning a lot all the time. When I first started, we didn't have a sophisticated software system. So I remember the chief of police calling me one time. They had found a young girl that was running from a big rig truck, and someone reported it and said it looked suspicious that had been to one of our trainings. And sure enough, she ended up being a trafficking victim, but she wouldn't tell them anything. So she was like, can you come try to talk to her? And so I'm writing, information about this victim on a napkin in my car because I'm driving, and all that. And it turned out that she was on the missing and exploited, endangered runaway status, and she was a trafficking victim. And we were able to help her, which was wonderful. But now we have very sophisticated encrypted software that our advocates put their notes in. They can be subpoenaed. I mean, we got a phone call the other day from a case from 2017. Well, you're not going to remember what happened, so you better have really good notes. And so
Mhm.
we've had to improve and become a lot more professional, to be able to do this job at the level we're doing it. And so there's been a lot of growth.
Yeah, and I think that, that's a lot of nonprofits have that situation because they're concerned about their mission and they're not necessarily ran a business or know those
Right.
ins and outs of those types of
Yeah,
things.
that's
So
right. That's right.
just like on the housing thing, it's something you want to do, but the expense and so it doesn't always work,
That's
so
right.
that's
Yeah.
as someone who
Idealism and reality sometimes clash.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And well, it sounds what your most important thing that it's what I'm hearing from you too is that listening, these advocates really need to listen to
Yeah.
understand what has been going on because everyone's situation is different.
That's right.
And so then you need to be able to relate to each one of those
That's right.
young adults or children,
That's right.
so they can recognize, even though you don't, they can recognize what they've been through, so they know that
Right.
to stop it from happening.
Right. That's right.
As someone who's led this work for over a decade, what personal lessons have you taken away, both as a founder and as someone advocating for survivors?
Whoo. Personal lessons. A lot of times people ask me, how do you still love it? How do you still just enjoy the work? It's so hard. The stories
Mhm.
are hard. And what brings me great joy and keeps me in it are the stories.
Yeah.
2,000 survivors this year, those are 2,000 humans, little people, that have a story, have a life, and they're in different levels of their recovery and that kind of thing. But it's knowing them. We had one that had an ankle monitor, had charges, was put in a lockdown facility, and our advocate just kept meeting with her and talking with her, and then was able to help her work her programming at juvenile detention and probation to get the ankle monitor out, and then was able to say, "You were really good at softball, go back to school," and helped her do that. And she got recruited by a big college to play softball.
Oh,
And
that's so amazing.
she says, "If I did not have an advocate, I would have just picked up more charges, I would have dropped out of school," and so that's what keeps me encouraged. I think the lessons are, you do secondary trauma is real. Hearing traumatic stories is real. You need to take some time off. You need to take some, I've got to have healthy exercise and friends and my husband and, things to make life balanced. But, I think, that's been something. I think another lesson learned is that, like you mentioned, the business part of it's real. I mean, we've got an almost $15 million budget and raising funds and nonprofit. I tell the Lord all the time, I feel like you tricked me. I didn't know it was so expensive.
So, well, and I just started a new business and I am going to build, maybe you want to do it with me. I'm going to build a donor platform. So it's going to be a donor platform that is telling stories and reaching out, and so I'll tell you about it later
All
on.
right, let's talk offline.
Yeah. So
But
anyway,
the lessons learned, the business part of it, the having great softwares, having great accounting, being buttoned up so we can have the approval ratings of all the charity watchdogs, which we want. We want our donors to have confidence in us. It's on our website, but that takes a lot of investment. It's taken a lot of learning curves. It's taken a lot of getting people to come on board with us so that we could build strong. And it matters because we want to do it well so we can do it over the long haul because these are lives and they're lives that can be restored and have an amazing future and it's worth it.
and unfortunately, it's not stopping,
Yeah,
and it's one of the biggest industries out there, which is
right.
disgusting.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, today, what are your core programs, initiatives that are driving impact at Unbound Now?
So the first one, like I told you, is our advocacy program, and about 75% of our staff is that. That's a frontline, 24/7, answer the call, emergency response, and ongoing case management. Huge, biggest thing that we do. But also the prevention education that we do in schools, juvenile detention centers, group homes. We want to keep it from happening from anyone. So that's a continuing focus of ours. We also have care coordination where the governor's office has asked us in several, 6 key areas across the state. You're kind of the traffic controller of trafficking victims in that community, and you work with all the agencies. And so that's a core thing. We lead or start or co-lead coalitions and task forces in communities because no one agency can stop this. We all have to work together. And so those task forces are really important to what we do. We also have a drop-in center for trafficked youth in Fort Worth, and we see about 325 kids a year there. It's open 24/7, has a therapy dog, soft interview room where law enforcement doesn't have to take a young person to the police station to interview. We have all of that equipment in a very discreet way, so that they're much more comfortable because
Yeah.
they'll likely be able to tell a lot more information if they're in a comfortable setting, and so that works. And so those are key metrics that we're working on.
That's great. So you told us one story. Do you have any other recent stories that illustrates the real hope and transformation through Unbound's Now's work? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. But one of them that really sticks with me is we went with law enforcement on a recovery of 3 little children.
Oh my God.
And so each one of those kids were recovered and the mom actually. And so we've been able to serve that family. Each one of those children have an advocate. We've got the mom connected to resources. And that was a really, really impactful, family. And so there are a lot of those kind of stories. We had a event just this last week, and one of our clients that was served through the underground, the drop-in center, shared his story. And it was just so impactful of how he found the underground and safe housing and then was connected with the staff there. Then he went to welding school and now he's in the middle of college and he's doing really, really, really well with all the support that he's gained.
Yeah, that's such a that those stories just make, I'm sure, your job,
Yeah,
your career, what you're doing just so worth it, because every
right,
time you see one of these young people succeeding and that they wouldn't have.
right. That's
So,
right.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what makes Unbound Now's model and approach different compared to other organizations that do the same thing?
Well, I think by far we are in the trenches with the victims day in and day out, 24/7. And so I think a lot of other organizations maybe major on awareness and prevention, things like that. We are with victims 24/7 and not just on the emergency, but over the long haul, over
Mhm.
years, because it really takes a long time to heal and get on the feet. And, healings like this,
Yep.
so having someone to call during those dips and get reconnected to maybe the services they need at that midpoint, those kind of things are really important. And so I think that makes us unique. I think it makes us unique that we integrate our faith with our work,
Absolutely.
and that's just who we are, and that makes us, a little different maybe than other organizations. We work with everyone, of course, and
Yep.
all of our partners, but that's who we are as an organization. And we work extremely collaboratively with our law enforcement partners and our government leaders and district attorneys' offices. We are integrated so much because victims need to be supported. Trials don't come around until sometimes 2, 3 years. And
Uh,
so those partnerships and supports that we can give really has made a difference in how many cases are going to trial now. And I'm really proud of that. We've spent hundreds of hours, probably about 300 hours, the courtroom just this last year supporting survivors. And so that's a real game changer. And so I'm proud of that.
yeah. Congratulations. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So as founder and CEO, what's your vision for the next chapter for Unbound Now?
Yeah.
Magic wand.
Magic wand is just securing the funding so that we can be just really where we need to be. Frontline services, advocates, are people that are out in the field. We are completely covered. But as you grow in that 2000, the infrastructure, HR people, grant management, I need to add those. And so I'm really looking for capacity building grants,
Yep.
meaning family foundations, individuals that have the capacity to say, you're doing fantastic work. We understand business and what you need to really go to the next level so you can expand to another state. And so that's the real focus, is to get the capital in so that we can make sure that we are strong to last over the long haul with excellent professional people on board and then be able to scale from there.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's what you have to do. I don't know if you saw the movie Uncharitable.
No, not yet.
Okay, well, I want you to, it's uncharitable, and it's about nonprofits and about how they need to be for raising funds. And we have to look at marketing, and as you know, you may market $100,000 or $1 million, but that marketing dollars, is, hopefully going to produce you $10 million.
Yeah,
And they can't look at nonprofits in a different way than a
yeah,
business, because you need to do that marketing for your mission.
right.
So that's what, look, check that out, because that's called Uncharitable,
Okay, thank you.
and you'll be able to find it.
That's great. Yeah, and people understanding that is so helpful, so helpful. Because people do, of course, they want to support the front lines work, and that is critical. That's why we got into it. That's why I'm here. That's why I
Yeah.
show up every day. It's why my team shows up every day. But at the same time, you better have your HR person doing payroll.
Yeah, well, and people need to understand that there is expenses. There's operating
Yeah,
expenses to do
right.
this. So you're used to hear about, oh, well, all the money didn't go to the Red Cross. Well, there's a reason for that. So that is kind of that movie, or
Yeah,
that Uncharitable talks about that.
yeah,
Hopefully getting the word out to people that,
yeah,
we're a nonprofit, we're not a charity. I
yeah,
mean, we are a charity, but we're a nonprofit.
yeah,
We're so
yeah, yeah. Thanks for understanding.
Yeah, right, right. That's what we need to do. So, what emerging challenges or trends in human trafficking concerns you most, and how is Unbound Now preparing to address them?
Yeah, the AI is a big deal. All the social media and laws that are, believe it or not, people are trying to raise laws that would protect perpetrators from using those. And so that's a big deal. Educating young people on how to stay safe because right now statistically we're not finding these victims until they've been exploited for 2 years.
Oh my God,
That's a lot of damage. And
because it is.
so it's only increasing, like you said, because there's so much, not just social media now. Now we have the AI fight as well. And so there's a lot to do as far as we gain that knowledge from the victims that we serve,
Mhm.
which feeds into lawmakers and that kind of thing. But there's a lot of work to be had in the next few years.
Yeah, and it's growing really. It's
Yeah.
really growing so fast.
Right.
I mean, in the 6 months that I've been doing, emerging myself in the AI, it's exploded in the 6 months. So yeah,
Right.
we all have to be paying attention, because there are gonna people who do not use it. There's gonna be people who don't use it for good.
Right. Right.
It's just like anything else,
Right.
and, so we need to see what we can use it for good, and hopefully stop the people you know, who are
Right.
using it for not good, for bad,
Right.
and hopefully AI is gonna be able to find that stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
faster. So,
Yeah.
so finally, what can listeners and individuals, communities, or organizations do today to support the cause and help drive change?
Number one, I like to tell people is educate yourself and don't think that you don't see it because it's out there. It's so prevalent that it's out there in plain sight. So if you'll educate yourself, you may see something at the gas station, at a hotel, on vacation, at a restaurant that just doesn't sit right with you, that you're like, they don't go together and that kind of thing. And so you can go on our website, unboundnow.org. Under resources, we have video trainings. It's all free and just learn what because we're the eyes and ears for the community to protect them. If you see something, say something, call law
Mhm.
enforcement, let them come check it out. If you're at the airport and it doesn't look right, let security come check it out. You can
Yeah,
save a life, and we hear stories about that all the time.
yeah,
And then I would say volunteer. Any organization that's serving young people, they need so much. So big brothers, big sisters, or anything, Sunday school classes. Don't think that that doesn't matter. Speaking life over young people when they are being combated with so many things makes a real difference. And then, of course, volunteer or give financially, is a big deal. And I mean, for right now, we're recording this. I don't know when it's going to go out, but December. So nonprofits raise about a third of their resources at the end of the year, and we are no different. We still have $600,000 to raise before the end of the year, which is very daunting.
yeah. That
And
is.
so any amount gives, just, I would just say, don't just listen, do something. If you can give $25, give it. But if you can give $250,000 or more,
Yep,
do it. Make a difference
yep.
because it really, really changes lives. And I think, one day we'll answer for where we have sown into. And I know there's people out there that can do that, and it's real game changers.
Yeah, this was such a great conversation. I'm definitely going to go to the website and learn more, so that I'm aware, and also make sure that we're being aware, not on our phones constantly with our heads in our phones, so that we're not seeing uh, those problems right in front of us that we might be able to prevent. But yeah,
Right.
I will definitely go there, and hopefully this will be out in a week or so, because the guy, I think he asked me when I was sending my next one, so hopefully that'll mean that it's going to be pretty quick.
Great.
Um, And thank you so much for sharing this story and making me wake up again. I mean, I've obviously that this is going on, but you get into a bubble in your life. You don't. So we have to keep reminding people all the time,
Right.
because the idea that you saved 2,000 people in Texas, in your area in
Yeah.
Texas. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just incredible. So we really need to get the word out, get people to understand, educate themselves, and save some more lives. Just
Yeah.
the average person can do that.
That's right.
So, Susan, I thank you so much for your time, your story. She told us where you guys can find it, but say again what the website
Unbound
is.
Now, unboundnow.org. So UNBOUNDNOW.org.
Thank you so much. And this is Mike Up, the next chapter. Until next time, I'm Kristin Guglielmo. So that's great. Thank you so much.